Hello. Usually when I'm mapping and working on the buildings project, I have YouTube on my phone and I'm watching, more listening to all kinds of things. And often it is historical programs like Time Team. And recently I started watching Tony Robinson's Britain's Ancient Tracks. And that reminded me that I meant to make a video about the Black Pig's Dyke, which is not in Britain, but it is in Ireland. And I had come across it last year when I was mapping in Leitrim, and I saw it on the British War Office map, and I thought this would be an interesting topic to do in a video, and I kind of forgot about it. And someone sent me a message a couple of weeks ago to remind me, and I can't remember who it was, so I can't mention your name, sorry about that. But thank you for reminding me. And while I was watching this episode with Tony Robinson, I thought I should really tackle this video about the Black Pig's Dyke. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you how I would map it, and I won't finish because it is difficult to find it because we can't search the British War Office map. And if you are interested in that topic, you can finish mapping it or just contribute along the way, literally. I had also, I think, attended a lecture about the Black Pig's Dyke by Cóilín Drisceoil, who literally wrote the book about it, because he excavated along there. And I should probably tell you at this point what the Black Pig's Dyke is. The Black Pig's Dyke, and that's not the only name it has, it runs through 6 counties in the Northern Midlands and in Northern Ireland, and it is called the Worm's Ditch in County Leitrim. We will see that hopefully in the British War Office map. And in Northern Ireland it's called Dane's Cast, and in other counties it's called the Black Pig's Dyke, but it is believed, and that is debated, that it is one monument. The first person I think to suggest that it was one monument was John O'Donovan of Kilkenny fame, one of the first surveyors for Ordnance Survey, and he also suggested that it was a boundary. That is kind of not really believed anymore. And why is it called the Black Pig's Dyke? Well, according to folklore, it was a teacher turned black pig that rampaged around and with its tusks and its snout dug this ditch. And we've all had teachers like that, I think. And if you've ever seen a wild boar, not in Ireland, I don't think there are any here, not native anymore anyway, but they do kind of do that. And I'm not terribly familiar with domesticated pigs, but I've seen a couple of boars in Germany where they are quite common, and they do wreak havoc like that. I lived at the outskirts of Berlin, and so did my sister, and their gardens were regularly destroyed by a wild boar because they're taking back nature up. And the name Dane's Cast, that's a very typical thing to happen, that people come across this monument or they live along this monument and they had no concept of history. So they thought, okay, well, let's think of powerful people that could have built this. And in Northern Ireland, apparently, that were the Danes, aka the Vikings. And they thought that the Vikings built this. It is actually late Iron Age. There have been dates taken, probably from finds and also dendrochronology, and it is late Iron Age. And this happens a lot when people, as I said, come across these kinds of monuments. They make up their own explanation for it, and it happens in Britain as well, where certain monuments have been attributed to, say, Alfred the Great, because he was so great. Surely he was able to do all these things, and it turns out that they're actually Neolithic or something like that. Oftentimes stuff is attributed to the Vikings, often when it has to do with destruction, the same as everything is attributed to Cromwell when it has to do with destruction. If something has been destroyed in the past, in Ireland it was either the Vikings or Cromwell, according to folklore. If you go through ducas.ie, the school's collection, you will come across that a lot of times. So because it is not a continuous line, we can't map it as a line. It has to be done in a relation to pick all these bits and pieces up. And I think the best type of relation to map it would be a multilinestring relation. There are not an awful lot of uses for them, but it works for these kinds of monuments. I've pulled up the Icknield Way here in England, which is done also as a multi-line string. It is actually longer. There is an episode with Tony Robinson where he walks it and he starts up at the Norfolk coast. So this one is incomplete, but at least someone has started. And yesterday I actually started a relation for Offa's Dyke, which is between England and Wales. Nobody has mapped that yet, but at least I made a start. But I don't want to finish that because I don't want to map in England and Wales, because I have plenty to do in Ireland. So we're gonna map the Black Pig's Dyke. If you want to get an impression, well, this kind of illustration isn't enough for you, I will link up in the corner an extract from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where they are going through the Black Pig's Dyke, so it has made its way into popular culture, which I think is interesting. And I said also that it's named the Wormstitch in Leitrim, and there's actually a townland that has that in it, posture. There might actually be 2 townlands with it in it. So a worm that has dug its way through the earthwork. So people just try to find explanations that they could relate to, like everybody has seen worms dig through soil, and back in the day when there were still wild boar in Ireland, people had seen boars dig up the soil like that, so they thought it must have been something like that, just much, much, much larger. But it is actually man-made. As you can see here, as you can see in this picture, people building it, and lots of people. So I made the relation, as I said. This is the only bit that's in the relation for now here. It's in County Leitrim, I think. And there is the relation here. And it is mapped as I said, a multi-line string relation. Over here, I put the name on it, Black Pig's Dyke, and there's also an Irish name that I won't even try to pronounce, but it means the same. I got that off Wikipedia, and I put a Wikipedia link in it. There is, I think, also a Wikidata entry. So this is what we're going to use, but I'm not going to use the ID editor as I usually do, because it is so much easier to do in JOSM. Because, well, maybe I'll do the first bit in ID. Because, as I mentioned in other videos about relations, you have to have another bit of that relation on your screen to add a new part of the relation to that relation. And because these pieces are so stretched out, it just makes it so much more difficult. So there it is. I'm going to turn the data off so you can see it. So you can see this here, this line. That's it. And I'll turn the British War Office map on so you can see it there as well. So you can see here, it comes from up here. You can see the name, hopefully, Wormstitch or Black Pig's Race. So that's actually what it's called in, I think, Leitrim. Not Black Pig's Dyke, but Black Pig's Race. And then in the vicinity, you get hill forts and raths and so on. You get Wormstitch or Black Pig's Race. And that's what it's called in this area. Turn the data back on. And as we maybe. The single parts I usually use the name that is on the British War Office map, because as I said, it has different names in different counties. And here, name Wormstitch, well, I should have written Wormstitch or Black Pig's Race. I can't actually see if there's an apostrophe on the British War Office map. I don't think there is, even though there should be. No matter if it was one pig racing or several, there should be an apostrophe there somewhere, but there isn't one. And then I have added the name, etymology, and man-made embankment, and I should have historic, archaeological site. And the site type here would be linear earthwork, which I'm not sure we have used anywhere else on OSM in Ireland yet. but that's what it is described as by archaeologists usually, so that's what I'm going for. Sometimes we've just used earthworks, but since it is linear, might as well call it that. And then there's another piece up here somewhere. I have to zoom in probably, yes. There's another bit here. So we will add historic archaeological site, linear earthwork. And then I can just copy most of this. I'm just gonna do this. Just go into the text mode and just copy the whole thing here, because that's easier to paste, and just paste that in here. So we have that in a consistent way. I could search around here whether there is another bit nearby. See, that's why it's not useful to do this in ID. And you kind of have to hope that you come across a bit. I don't know which way it went. That could be it there. But it has no name on it. I'm not gonna add just a random linear earthwork to it if I'm not sure that's what it is. So there are a lot of other monuments around it. There's something grave. I can't read that. It's just the British War Office map is very difficult to make out. So I've added these tags to this additional embankment. Now I have to add it to the relation, of course. You can see actually that this line on the British War Office map continues on, so they do actually join up. But if you look on Esri, and you can already see in the mapping that there's a quarry going through, somehow they got permission to put a quarry across this. Some parts of it are actually national monuments, not all of them for some reason. So I've highlighted the new bit that isn't part of the relation yet. So I go down to relation, and the first one that comes up is relation Black Pigs Dyke. This is what we want to add it to. If I didn't have that part on screen and I opened this up, it wouldn't show that. So that's why you have to have the second part, or part of the relation that you want to add it to, already on screen. And that's how easy it is. There's no rule that I could find for this. If I click on the relation, you see these tags here that you could also see here, because it's the same. It's the same thing. So that's the relation. And we can save that then. Added embankment to relation. And the hashtag I'm using is Black Pigs Dyke, and I can upload that. The sources are on the line, so I don't really have to give them again for the change set. That doesn't change anything in the appearance in the rendering on the map. It's still rendered as this embankment. And you have the name on it there, Worm Ditch, which should change after a while because I changed it all to Worm Ditch or Black Pigs Race. You can see that there now. And here it also has changed it to Worm Ditch or Black Pigs Race. And if I run this query now that looks for that relation, it should at some point show the other bit here. So there we are, it has these two parts now as part of the relation, and that's all we have in the relation so far, but there are way more bits. And as I said, I would do this in JOSM, because as long as you don't have the next bit right next to what you are trying to add, it's going to be tricky in the ID editor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this relation into JOSM, and I'm doing that by going into export and load data into an OSM editor, JOSM, and then it will complain and wants to repair the query, which we will agree to. And you have to have JOSM open, of course, and that is what it looks like in JOSM then. And under relations to the right there, you see that there's a multi-line string relation called Black Pig's Dyke. And that, because I have that on my screen, so to speak, or in my editor, it's easier to add things to it now. So how do we find other pieces to add to it? Well, you can only add those pieces, well, I can only add these pieces now that I have already mapped, just as this piece was mapped here before, as man-made embankment and name possibly Black Pig's Dyke or something like that. So I'm changing my overpass search, the type from relation to way, and then we'll see if I zoom out a bit and search for the name Black Pig's Dyke, if that will come up with something. It does. So we have the bit down here has vanished because it doesn't have the name Black Pig's Dyke. It's called Worm Stitch or Black Pig's Race, if you remember. But up here, it seems it is called Black Pig's Dyke. So I can load these into, so this is County it's near County Monaghan. My geography of Northern Ireland is terrible, I'm sorry, I haven't mapped a lot there. But these are bits that are in Northern Ireland, as you can see, but very close to County Monaghan. And if I'll just click on that to show you what the tags are. It's just historic yes, which I will change, hopefully, if I don't forget. Man-made embankment and the name Black Pig's Dyke, and that's what it was searching for. And you can see that the last person working on that was myself. So I can load these into JOSM now as well. Just these three, I think that should work. I think it only loads whatever is on screen. If I go to export and load data into OSM editor, JOSM, it doesn't complain about this because it has changed that already. Whatever needs to be changed here. I don't understand that part of the code. And if I zoom out far enough, oh no, these are them, aren't they? Here. I'll show you what they look like on satellite imagery there. See, the good thing in JOSM is you can just load the stuff onto the screen that you're looking for, and you're not getting confused by all other kinds of farmland and townland boundaries and whatever have you. You only have the stuff on screen that you need, which is very useful. I'm turning the data off so you wouldn't really know what's there. This just looks like a tree line or something. But if I turn the British Raw Office map on, you can see that there is a part here. It can't have been me who originally mapped this, because I wouldn't know this is the Black Pig's Dyke from just looking at this, because it doesn't have the name on it. Here on the British Raw Office map. I don't know, whoever mapped that might have had local knowledge. Now I've lost them. Here. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody must have known that they are part of it. So I can just, I will highlight all three and change it from historic yes to archaeological site, and then archaeological site linear earthwork. Oh, thank God. It already has learned that. And I don't know where the name came from, so I can't confirm. Then I'm going to click on the relation here, only one click, and click on the editing button here to open it. And I still have these three highlighted. They're in the selection on the right. And to add them to the relation, I just click on this symbol here to move them over. So now we have 5 parts here. And I click OK, and they're added to the relation, but of course I have to upload that to OpenStreetMap. I added a milk churn stand earlier. That's my last edit in JOSM. added milk stand, no, added parts to relation. That was very quick because it was very small change set. Going to turn those off and go to the next one here. Zoom out to find this here. This is in county. Please tell me. County Monaghan. I haven't mapped much in Monaghan, so it can't have been me, I presume, originally. Anyway, I'll load that into JOSM. There it is, and I'll show you on the aerial imagery. I don't see anything. There's nothing there. Might have to change that to was embankment. It's here. Ancient in something. I can't read that. There's another case where I'm not entirely sure if it is actually part of the Black Pig's Dyke. But it's in Monaghan, it could be. So we'll add that, archaeological site, linear work, and historic archaeological site. That's all a bit dubious here. And turn that on again and add to the relation. Is there anything? There's another bit here, maybe. But they're all not labeled. There's another bit here. Ancient something meant. I can't. Entrenchment or something? I also can't see where exactly it's supposed to be. But there's a druid's altar next to it, so there's some, as I said, there are usually other historical sites nearby. I'm not going to add that because I don't really know. It must be this hedge here or something. That's a bit too vague to actually add that. We'll just be happy with this. Added parts to relation. I forgot the hashtag. Black Pig's Dyke. And my keyboard has changed to German again. Typical. And then I think there are bits in Antrim that are called Dane's Cast, and I put Black Pig's Dyke in the alt name instead, so I'm going to search for that and hope for the best. So up here we have bits of the Dane's Cast. I'm not quite sure what the cast means, so please educate me in the comments. So there are 3 bits here, and we will add these 3 using the usual method. Go into export into JOSM. There they are. Look at it here. So it would just look like a regular double tree line here. On the satellite imagery you wouldn't know what it is, and on the British War Office map, please tell me it's there. I was sure I had seen it somewhere. Must have been added by another local, I suppose. Must have been. Not the best examples, I have to admit. Historic archaeological site and archaeological site linear earthwork. And add that to the relation. And save. And it gives the same error message there saying that it's an archaeological site, it should be a closed way. But no, it doesn't have to be, especially not if it's a linear earthwork. So that's that bit added. To show you one that is actually on the British War Office map, if you go onto the Black Pig's Dyke website, there is a tab called Locations, and you can choose from the counties. And I'm going for Longford. And there it has another name yet. It's called the Dúnclaw, and it says, or Dúnclaw or Black Pig's Race. And it says here, it extends for 10.3 kilometers between Loch Gauna and Loch Kinnail through the center of a dense concentration of prehistoric ritual and funerary monuments, blah blah, north of Granard. Granard, probably, isn't it? Granard. So we are north of Granard here. Well, northeast. But there's Loch Kinnail. And I'm going into the JOSM editor using this. On the top where it says edit, where we usually just click on edit, I'll open it like this and click on edit with remote control. And that will open this area here, and it will jump conveniently onto the British War Office map. And if you look here, there's a very long stretch on the British War Office map here where you can see this kind of shading. That's an embankment. It's better to see here. There, and there's actually a footpath running along, but not in the ditch. And here we have the name. What is it supposed to read? I've already forgotten. Dúnclaw. Dúnclaw. Dún is a fortification, isn't it? Don't know what the Claw means. I think that was part of the other name as well. But anyway, there it is, Dúnclaw or Black Pig's Race. And then it stops here and then it continues on, so we can work with that. And you can see it's also the townland boundary here. You see this line? That's the townland boundary. And there are lots of ring forts. There's a ring fort there, or an enclosure. A druid's, well, they're also difficult to read. Something? Circle? I think that might be what that reads. Druid circle. And there's another, that's probably a motte or something. Anyway, we'll change to Bing. There's another one here. See that? That's another ring fort or enclosure. So we'll draw along here. This is also interrupted by that farmyard. Tut tut. So we'll follow the townland boundary here. The Bing imagery, as you can see here, is terrible. So we've drawn the line, and then historic, archaeological site, linear earthwork, man-made embankment, name, Dúnclaw. Is that how it's spelled? No. Dúnclaw or Black Pig's Race. That's that, and then we have to add it to our relation if we can find it. There it is, it's still highlighted. Just open that and add it to that. Oh, there's so many unmapped monuments. It's shocking. And we'll continue here. I guess we could have continued that. Well, no, because the embankment is gone, or the road is built over it. Also, the Bing imagery is terrible. Let's change to Esri. You can actually see the ditch better there. As a hollow. Not so much there. And the same tags. that should do, and add that to the relation. What's this? And then it continues on here. You can see the ditch. I'll stop it there because I'm not so sure what's happening in the forest there. And same tags again. So, and adding it to the relation. Yeah, so usually what I presume will happen, the next county I'm going to map is Monaghan, probably. That I will come across it on the British War Office map and then just add to it. But there are lots more pieces that need to be added. But you could use this website here because it doesn't give you exact GPS coordinates or anything like that. There shouldn't be a problem with copyright. It just gives you townland names or, you know, locations like Loch Gowna. Why can't I highlight the text? That's weird. Dalistown. Could check that again. First I want to upload this. And same, change that comment. War Office map. Terrible. Bit intrigued by this. It's a stone circle. Lovely stuff. And Dalistown. Town. County Longford. What does it say here? It is best preserved at Dalistown, so we'll see. We'll see if that's true. And they say at Dalistown, that just means somewhere around there. Here, I think. Yep. So it comes from up there. Oh yeah, that is very, you know, that is very clear here that there is a ditch. So we'll add that bit as well. Stop here. Oh, check the name. Yeah, it's the same. So we'll just use all these, but at this point I should have made a preset. And add that to the relation, which is still highlighted. And then continue on. And you can, I don't know if you noticed that before, but there are also quite a couple of graveyards in the vicinity. Oh, that is really nice. Easy to see. Goes down here, so it doesn't follow the townland boundary in all instances. I'll leave it at there. And same tags and add to the relation. It's a nice little oh, that's not even on the British War Office map, but you can see that there's something there. That is very likely not natural. And that might be another one there, or the graveyard. Yeah, it might be interesting to just map along it and see what else you can add. Stone circles and ring forts and all kinds of things. We'll upload that. And I'll close JOSM. Well done, JOSM. And I'll go back here, and if I undo most of that it changes it back to the relation name Black Pig's Dyke, and since we've added quite a few now, hopefully they come up now. Yeah, so it all looks very pink and very like dots, but if you zoom in, you'll see that they're all lines. So that's part of the Black Pig's Dyke mapped, and we can go and try and add more and have a look at the website. There's no lecture or anything on YouTube. That's how I found the Assassin's Creed video. I just searched for a Black Pig's Dyke on YouTube, and the first couple of results were all Assassin's Creed gaming commenting videos that I usually don't watch. I watched a little bit just to see what it looks like in the video game, to see if it has any resemblance to what's depicted here, and it does. Only in the game the battle has already happened, and there was a scene, or there are a couple of scenes where you have to explore burned out cottages along the Black Pig's Dyke, and they're all thatched. It's lovely. Yeah, so maybe you want to check that out. Thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you again soon in another video. Slán go fóill.